What's up, everyone? In today's video, we're going to be covering the best setups for tomorrow and the most important news you need to know about right now. We have one more day left of the week, so let's really make sure to make this one count. But with that being said, Tom, let's get right into it. I know we have a lot of great stuff to cover today.
Yeah, the overall market today really dipped down at first, but then we ripped right back up to highs. And I'll say, Mike, it ended up being a very fun day in the stock market. If you go look at stocks all across the board, I know that some stocks like Nvidia were falling off, but a lot of the growth stocks were moving back up. We had Plug Power continuing. And Mike, I know that we've been talking about Lucid a lot lately. Look at that stock continuing to the upside after we had that huge purchase by the Saudi PIF, which is the public investment fund over there. That's a lot of big money going into this stock. And on that daily chart, man, it's starting to look really enticing. That's three really good candles. So that's a stock to keep on the radar for the next few days. But it's good to see, a lot of these smaller stocks are popping up, and even some of the bigger ones. We go look at Apple. Look at that. End of day actually made a new high up to 190.40 there right around after hours. So wow, we're just seeing this uptrend continue for now, Mike. But as we have in store on the video, there's still a lot of VIX call buying going on. We're going to talk about VIX a lot, and we're also going to talk about a lot of the S&P 500 short interest and where banks are spending. We have a bunch of stuff to go over today.
You know it. So, Tom, while we had some stocks, especially the growth stocks, move up, we had one of those crazy stocks, SPCE, have the letdown of a long time so far today. What is going on with this crazy stock? From a lot of perspectives, you might say their launch was really good, but it looks like investors weren't really too pleased.
Yeah, they really weren't. This launch ended up being really a letdown, Mike. And I will say the launch was good, so I'm not saying that the launch was a letdown, but I would say investors were let down a little bit. Now, one thing that I have to say, Mike, is that it looks like it's one of those buy the rumors, sell the news type of events. That's exactly what Barron's has in their article here. It's what a lot of people were thinking today. To me, I'm kind of thinking that it just didn't wow investors enough. It reminds me of Tesla's battery day from a long time ago. Of course, those batteries were awesome, but, the tech kind of flew over people's heads. And I feel like that with this event, if you guys watched it, you're paying $450,000 for a ticket to go up into space for about 30 seconds to 2 minutes before you end up re-entering the atmosphere. I don't know about you, Mike. That does not seem worth it to me. They only got to move around for just a very short period of time. Now, it might be cool. I just don't think it's worth the money, and I don't think it's worth investing in for the long term, given that. I feel like I'm on Shark Tank right now, and I'm like Mr. Wonderful saying oh, I'm out on this one.
Yeah, so I guess you could say it's definitely a niche market. If you just have unlimited money, then, then it's all right, maybe you'll take the flight, but for a wide scale thing, I don't know how many people will spend this money for this value. So, the stock didn't really move to the upside at all today. It really tanked down in a pretty significant way. And, there's a lot of selling pressure in this stock right now.
Yeah, there is, and it's approaching $4 again. And I'll be honest, I am not going to touch it now. I had a few $100s in call options on this one for the gamble. I ended up getting out on some of these big red candles to the downside there. It was a straight up gamble play. I will say, though, I saw a lot of people put way too much money into call options on this stock. Be very careful doing that. Like you said yesterday, Mike, if you can't take the heat on this one, get out, because it is extremely volatile, and this was always a risk that was going to probably happen. So I know it sucks, but, this happens sometimes trading, and we can learn from this. If you did it on this one, next time now, limit your risk. If you have a smaller account, you shouldn't be putting $3 grand, $4 grand, $5 grand into this play. Really limited on some of these, because it had the potential to go up quite a bit. You don't have to, overdo it on some of these positions.
No doubt about that. So, shifting back to the overall market with SPY, it was a decent day. Nothing too crazy to the upside, but, nonetheless a good day. What would you say are the main levels to watch going into tomorrow?
Yeah, like we've been falling down a lot lately, and today we're actually right at a big resistance from this week. I can't believe we're about to break out above like 438 to 438.30. That's even a big level from back in the past here, whenever we finally like broke out of that big trend line the SPY was in. So I'm going to really watch this as we go forward. I think that's going to be a big level, but 439 to 440 is going to be the big areas of resistance to keep an eye on if we do keep running. 439 is huge. We had a big wick there a couple weeks ago, and 440 I think is huge all the time. You know, it's a big even number, and there were even a few wicks there. So keep your eyes on those levels. Mike, the SPY's coming up to test this. I'm very curious if we're gonna, be able to get back up to like 444 or not. It's gonna be tough. I feel like there's a lot of put buying going on right now. I feel like that there's a lot of stocks just way too overbought, and like we're going to talk about in a little bit, that VIX is kind of set to go up here at the second half of the year if history continues with those trends.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in just a minute, but while we're still on the topic of SPY, there's something very important that everyone needs to know. Of course, in the S&P 500, you got 500 companies, we'll call it, but not all companies are created equally. Right now, we are seeing two stocks specifically, Apple and Microsoft, have the largest influence on the S&P 500 than we've seen any other two stocks have in over 40 years. So this is very, very important because when you're looking at the market right now, or you're looking at SPY, you got to keep in mind that Apple and Microsoft are like the two kings, and at the end of the day, let's say a lot of other stocks are selling off, but Apple and Microsoft and other big tech stocks are green, odds are the market's going to hold up just fine. And, if Apple and Microsoft are ripping to the upside, there's a good chance SPY will as well. So make sure to keep that in mind for sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of stocks right now necessarily ripping to the upside in after hours, but look at Apple. I mean, that is a huge move right there. And then guess what the SPY's doing in after hours? Running to the upside as well, up to those resistances. So it's already playing a role, Mike, even right here, right in front of us right now. So that's a really good example, and that is a really good thing to keep in mind. 14%, that is a lot of weighting just for two stocks there. And like look in history, like Microsoft's been a big player for a long time. Even during like the dot-com bubble, they were high in the weighting there.
Exactly. So while we're on the topic of Microsoft, Tom, fill us in on this bookmap action on Microsoft. I know we have a pretty good setup in the works.
Yeah, we really do. So before we go to the bookmap, I want to show you guys on the chart right here. There was a lot of selling today on Microsoft right around this 336 area, and I want you to keep that area in mind. There's been a lot of hits on that area the past few weeks as well. So as we go over to the bookmap here, guess what we see at 336? There was a bunch of sellers stacked up there today, and there's even a bunch at 338 up there as well. So there's a few big levels here to the upside. You can see there's even some like at 336.50 and 337, but the main levels are 336 and then 338 on Microsoft. So just keep that in mind as you trade tomorrow. These are areas where we'll probably see a lot of big sellers coming back in tomorrow, and we could end up breaking up through there, but we have to be very, very careful right now, Mike. We're running up into recent resistances, and that could be an area where, we could maybe get pushed back to the downside. Like if we look here, there's been a lot of hits off that same exact level, and then we fell right down. So, be very careful as we approach that.
All right, good stuff. And I guess you could say on the scary side of things, I saw some data related to VIX and where we currently stand with the market. So essentially what we're seeing right now is the VIX is very, very below its average price level that it should be at for the month of June. Basically on this chart, you can see the orange line, which represents the VIX so far this year. And then like in the gray column charts, you can see the average VIX for the given month. And you can see how most of the time, on average, June and July end up being the bottom for VIX, and it goes higher as we get closer to the end of the year. And for those of you who don't know, when VIX goes up, that is horrible for the market because it means that there's a lot of panic, there's a lot more extra volatility, and in most cases, there's a lot more selling pressure in the market. So, if this data is correct, on average, we should see VIX pop up pretty soon. And if VIX pops up, like I said, a lot of selling pressure normally goes along with that.
Yeah, exactly. And this doesn't mean that VIX is going to fly up like right away. So like if you're trading like, UVXY or VXX or something like that, be a little careful because timing comes into play so much. Like if it continues to sit down here and do this and then start to pop up in August and September and October, like we saw on that chart, then I think that'll be more of the play here. So, as we go forward, Mike, we might still have a little while of uptrend, but I think that chart will end up playing a pretty big role, or I would say forecast. Like it says here, it implies a possible VIX floor could be near, and I think that's going to be very, very on the books, I'd say, for July, especially with all these stocks being so overextended at the moment. Even if we just get a small pullback, I mean, VIX will probably have a pretty good pop up to like 18, 19 again, and that would be pretty good considering where we are now around 13. And some of those stocks, like I said, UVXY, could be great, but just make sure you time it right, because as we can see right here, Mike, like VIX has been very flat. I know me and you look at this all the time, and then we look at UVXY and look at how it's just decayed like really bad over the past few weeks as well. So, timing this is very, very important.
Exactly. And if you are looking to trade it, like Tom mentioned, you have like UVXY, you could do like VIX futures, you could do VIX index calls, you can do VXX calls, you can maybe do some like SPY puts, but those would be the main ways to capitalize off of it. But timing is crucial with this type of trade. And as we talk about the scary side of the market, how can we not talk about some crucial short interest changes? So basically looking at this chart right now, we can see that so far this year, we have seen giant increases in the amount of shorts in the banking industry and then the real estate industry. And I can see why this makes sense. One, as interest rates rose, we saw mortgages rise and just the whole housing market slow down a little bit. So I can see why people are starting to short, real estate related stocks. At the same time, there's a lot of risks to commercial and like office, real estate as well right now. And then with these banks, it's also very interesting because their interest expenses have been booming. So I saw another chart today that basically shows how bank interest expenses essentially 12x'd. And obviously they 12x, and while it's not necessarily a great sign, it's also worth noting that their interest income has also boomed, which has led to ultimately a higher bottom line, a higher net income for these banks overall. But either way, it's just some interesting data. The main takeaway that you need to know is that people have been shorting bank stocks and real estate stocks pretty heavily.
Yeah, they really are. And, looking at that short interest, it's just insane to see the banks being shorted that much, in my opinion, especially considering that they've been doing pretty strong. Like today, JP Morgan did fantastic. It doesn't look like the short interest would be that high, honestly, right now. That's a good move, 3.49%. I know the banks did well with their stress test, which was good to see. So I'm glad to see that out of a lot of the banks as well. But, those daily charts look pretty good. Like they're holding up around highs. Honestly, it seems like they might try to break out here soon. So I don't know how to take that article, Mike, but if we end up bouncing off of this and rejecting back down, I'll tell you, that's going to give me a lot more conviction to possibly get some calls, puts there. That's for sure.
Yep. All right, Tom. Well, now let's get right into the exciting stuff, which is the setups for tomorrow. One stock I'm watching very closely is good old Meta. So this stock has been on a crazy run over the past couple months. It is overbought, as we all know, but it's actually starting to lose a good amount of momentum right now, and sellers are definitely coming into play. So I'm gonna have a very close eye on Meta to the downside for tomorrow. If they could break below that 280 support, that would be awesome, and I think it could definitely fall a lot more. But that 280 support, and then even that 278 support is pretty strong.
Yeah, I like that, and I feel like even if it breaks below 280, you might be able to get into a quick scalp down to 278 and then maybe take some profits there, lock some in, and then maybe even hope for, more of a run. Maybe that would be a good way to go, then maybe target 275 if we really do get some selling. But I'm with you, Mike. I also see this one to the downside, and I like these supports. They're pretty good down there. The first one I'm going to talk about might make a few people laugh. It's good old Mickey D's, McDonald's out here. I don't know what's up with them right now, Mike, but they are on fire today. And when I say on fire, they're up under 1%. They're not a big mover, but those options actually do pretty well. Look at these intraday swings that they've been having lately. Some of these moves have been pretty good. So I'll keep watching it for a nice run. like I said, it's not a big mover, but like let's say you get the 295 strike calls, that could actually go pretty well for you tomorrow if the stock continues up.
All right, good stuff. A nice boring stock, Tom.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess depends on who you ask. I guess you could say a lamer stock, and that would be Beyond Meat, the fake meat company.
What?
But see, here's the thing, though. At least Beyond Meat has some craziness. I'm not saying it's good, though. Like most of the time, Beyond Meat just craters down, at least over the long term. But all it takes is like a good news article or just anything, and this stock can have some really good runs. This stock is not a stock that like I'm like, oh, buy and hold this. It's more so like, hey, if they get some good momentum tomorrow, get some nice price action, nice momentum, it can make for a really good trade, which is completely true. But the momentum has to be there. So it's like, for example, if this stock opens up tomorrow and let's say it's up 1%, nobody cares. But let's say it's up like, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6%. Maybe there's some good news, good, higher volume, stuff like that. This stock does have potential to have like, 10 to 20 or even 30% days. Like they're rare, but they do happen. But either way, I'm going to keep it close on watch to the upside.
Even this morning it opened, like from actual open to that high there, I mean, within just like 30 minutes to an hour, the thing ran up like 8%. That's actually pretty good too. So yeah, I'm definitely going to watch Beyond. I know they had some good news a couple weeks ago, and they're starting to still move pretty well off of it. And I actually think that setup here is pretty good if they continue up. So my second play is actually going to be X, or US Steel. I talked about this one last week, and look at the way this baby continued here. Really good movement to the upside. I'm glad to see it running up. It's a bit of a different stock, being in the steel industry. It's had a few great days starting to run up, and I'll look at it for a nice continuation. Whenever this one goes on runs, it generally goes on them in a pretty strong way, and we're on a pretty good one now. So I'll be watching it up into like this $26, $27 resistance area.
Sounds good. All right, Tom. Well, it's now time for those momentum plays. And with the first one, we have a bank stock that crushed it today, which is JP Morgan to the upside.
Man, I was watching this all day long, and shout out to the hybrid bot. That was an awesome play on JP Morgan today. But for tomorrow, go ahead and make JP Morgan break above 143.60. I've had that resistance on the chart for a little while, and it's just above the high of day.
Beautiful. With the next one, we have Disney to the upside.
DIS. Yeah, I'm glad to see them coming up. They actually had a pretty bad morning, but end of day, they popped right back up there. If they can break above 89.12, then watch them to the upside. And I like 89.12 because it's not like we're just looking at 89. We're looking at that, that little range above. You always have to give or take a few cents on these guys. Always remember that.
All right. And then with the last one, we have Microsoft to the downside.
MSFT. Yeah, pretty weird today. A lot of consolidation. If they break back under... Wow, look at all those hits around 334. If they break under that, look for some puts tomorrow. And man, that's such a big level this week there.
There we go. All right, well, it's now time for the big money trade of the day. We had $1.156 million go into Disney. So we were just talking about this stock, but like I said, someone dumped $1.156 million into the Disney 50 strike call options that expire on, get this, December 19th of 2025. So this big money trader sure is buying some time. If you don't understand how options work, essentially someone's betting, let's call it $1.16 million that Disney stock will rise. These 50 strike call options are deep in the money, which is, it's a bold move. It's a pretty strong bet that the stock's going to rise quite a bit. They have a lot of time to this trade. I think Disney's at a solid level right now. I really like this big money trade, but it's crucial that you understand that this trade can take time. The options expire in December of 2025, so just keep that in mind. You got to give this one some time, but I do like it.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I've been picking up quite a bit of Disney as it's been falling down here over the past couple months. I love it down here at these low pricings, under $90, under $100 a share even. I like it at that price. Now, it could go lower. There's a lot of issues right now with, them being woke. They're kind of like Target. They have all those issues. I'm not trying to pick any sides here, but that is a problem with them right now. But I think that over the longer term, especially as those Apple headsets start to come out and they start to get better deals with that, and ESPN, and hopefully ESPN gets into sports betting sometime soon with like DraftKings, or they partner with them or something like that. That would be awesome. But there's a lot of stuff in the works for Disney, I think, for the future. Even at the parks, those headsets could come into play. So I don't know, Mike. They have so much on the table. I'm a pretty big fan of Disney for the longer term. I know everyone always says this, but you can't replace Mickey Mouse. That's for sure.
What I do like about Disney stock right now is, like, if you look at basically any other industry, whether it be semiconductor stocks, whether it be big tech stocks, pick an industry, whether it's Apple or Microsoft or Meta or Amazon or anything. Even if you look at some other industries like steel companies or uranium or literally almost anything out there, odds are they had a decent move this year, as a lot of stocks have. But Disney has just been very stagnant, right? And I don't think that's a bad thing, because this can allow you to, capitalize, and, when eventually Disney does have a run again, it can be a pretty powerful run. Right now the stock's, what is that, less than $90 a share? And if we go to the max weekly chart, we can see Disney stock has all-time highs. What is that? Like basically $200 that it made back in March of 2021. So, there's a pretty nice like swing potential there, but, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take some time.
Yeah, it's not. And, it's on a big support, and sometimes this support's broken a little bit. We've seen some moves down to like 84 in the past during COVID. They popped back down to 78 for a few days and then ran right back up past that support again. So this support's pretty big. I don't know if we're going to end up falling down a little bit more. If that's the case, I'll just keep averaging in. I know I might get some flack in a few months, Mike. If Disney stock goes down, people are going to say, Tom, what are you doing? That's still part of the strategy. That's the thing. You're averaging in right now around 90. If the stock goes down to like 65, you keep buying in, maybe your average might end up being 70, 72. So then on that recovery, you can make a lot more. And, that's one thing I think whenever you traders, they're so much into the short term that whenever you see some of these longer term setups like this, it's very important to remember, to average in, because that really gets your prices lower. Like there's a lot of people who haven't been averaging it. Even Kathy Woods has a prime example. Some of her average prices are way too high on some of those stocks.
Exactly. And look what happened to her ETF. Got destroyed. So, yeah, there's a lot of lessons to be learned there, to say the least. But on a different note, if you guys are new to the channel and for some reason you're not subscribed, subscribe up. When you do, you'll see our videos recommended to you more often. In every single video, we go over multi-million-dollar hedge fund trades so you can directly follow the smart money. We do hours worth of research every day to give you the most important news and setups and all that good stuff in less than half an hour, and a lot of times it's like 20 minutes or so. So subscribe up if you haven't already. And I actually want to give a giant shout out to one of our viewers today, Fama, in the StockedUp Discord. He had a pretty solid day today. We could see, he had a pretty solid day. So huge shout out to you. Keep up the hard work, and thanks for being a great member of the community. But besides that, Tom, you're holding out these earnings and schedule again. Cough them up.
Yeah, I had to do it again, didn't I? Yeah, so the earnings were done for the week, guys. Nike reported tonight. Let's go check in on them really quick on after hours, maybe see how they're doing really quick. Falling off to the downside. I'm not really surprised. They're an apparel company. It's not like they're big tech or anything like that. So, their earnings are always 50-50, as we know, as we've seen. And, as a lot of traders have felt over the past few months. But Friday, tomorrow, we have personal income numbers coming out, 8:30 a.m. Eastern time in the morning. We also have the PCE price index. That's going to be pretty big, guys. So keep your eyes on that. Michigan consumer sentiment at 10 a.m. Other than that, it's just going to be looking at these big tech stocks and a lot of these growth stocks that had huge moves today. Like, man, some of those moves, Mike, have been insane lately, like on Lucid and a few others.
You know it. So, like I said in the intro, we have one more day left to the week. Let's make it a good one. If, today was a tough day for you, keep your head up high. Let's make tomorrow better. Go into the market with a disciplined approach, respect those support and resistances, and follow that momentum. And if today was a great day for you, let's keep that momentum rolling, guys. So, good stuff, and let's end the week on a great note.